So Jason Greensides tagged me to do his 7 things that bug me about novels tag. And I'm always up for a good rant, so I'll happily do this one. I also watched, he also tagged some other people, and I watched J.B. Taylor's and then Michael J. Elliott from The Dark Realm. Um, I think we all kind of agree in a lot, which is kind of interesting. I think there's things that as readers, like you see so often, that I think probably especially as authors, bug us. And this also just kind of ties in nicely with, I'm going to post another video today right after this one about reviews and reviewers. And I think that all of the opiniony-ness that is about to be spewed forth will probably seem a little hypocritical given what I'm going to say in that video. But anyway, for now. It really bugs me when I'm reading and the language used in a book is all very, I guess, simple and easy to read, and you kind of feel like you know the vocabulary of the author and it has a nice flow, and then suddenly there'll just be this like obviously looked up thesaurus word thrown in the middle of a sentence, and you're like, no one would ever use this word other than you wanted to sound smart. So I guess that's kind of my big thing, is when you're reading and you can feel that the author is trying to sound smart because of a random word choice that, based on all the other words that they've used, you know that they probably didn't know what that means without looking it up. So that's one of my big things. I have to agree with Jason on the pick of the overuse of names in dialogue when people are talking back and forth and using each other's names as they're talking. I actually don't know that that's used as much as like a way to be dramatic as I think a lot of authors do it, so that they don't have to use the said tag. I can't remember if it's Stephen King or who came up with the whole thing you shouldn't use the said tag to say who's saying what. Just try to avoid that as often as possible. And I think a way that people try to get around that is to be like, well, I don't want you to forget who's saying what. So it's like every other line you have like blah, 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 Meg, blah, 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 Brian. I think that that's just another tell of you not really knowing how to keep your characters clear of who they are and give them each their own voice. And you kind of fall back on that as a way to kind of get around the whole said tag. That bothers me. One of the things that bothers me that Jason and JB and Michael and I think probably a couple others will also say too is everyone talks about the strong female character. And I have kind of a spin on how that bothers me. I hate seeing usually male authors who write women like men. And I don't think that if you're trying to show a strong woman, you just have to have her be basically like a jock. Like, there are differences between men and women, and those can still come out, and you can still have the strong female. But like I know I have one author friend in particular, or we haven't talked to him in a while, not really sure where we stand. But like, that was one of my big gripes with his novel when I was beta reading for him, and I was like, this woman just sounds like a man. You have her saying things that really only a man would say because you think it makes her sound tough. And like, when that's all you're trying to do is change the physical gender, I guess, of your character, and they could just be interchangeable, that drives me nuts. I think just write true humans. You know, if a woman is strong, then she does things as a woman, but strong, I guess. I don't even really know what that means. So kind of going along with that of writing real humans, I think, you know, you don't always have to have a woman be strong. Like, I think it's more realistic that if monsters came flying into wherever you live, you're gonna like hunker down and cry rather than go all ninja on them. And I think that that's just a little more realistic. I hate with novels in a series when each book is not like complete unto itself. I think if you're chopping up your books to make a series just for the sake of having a series, you're pretty obviously doing it because you want to make money off of a series. That's not showing a level of writing of story. That's just chopping stuff up. I mean, at least have the decency to, if you're going to have a book, have closure in that book. That doesn't mean you can't end on a cliffhanger. It doesn't mean you have to answer every little thing from the first book and then start completely new on the second book. Like, you can have overarching stories, but finish whatever is in that book that is relevant and isolated to that book. People think I grape on zombie stories a lot. I actually love a lot of zombie stories, but I've seen that mostly in that genre where you just have kind of smaller books, but they're all in a series, and it's really just a continuation of this character, this character, this character. Oh, the book's gonna stop here. This character, this character, this character. Oh, the book stops here. Like, it's not completed books. It's just a continuation, and you decided to chop it up there because you thought it was long enough. Hate that. It really bothers me when in a novel people can't keep straight their own point of view shifting, and you're in one paragraph and you know that it's this character, and then suddenly it's like, but Rebecca thought that he was crazy, and then, but so, like, not keeping straight whose head you're in all in the same. Like, if you're gonna do that, at least give me like a divider or even like a paragraph break in there or something. But it's really annoying to me when I'm reading and you just can't keep the flow because you're like, wait, whose head am I in suddenly? Or why am I in this person's point of view, but suddenly I'm hearing this person's thoughts? Oh, let's see. Oh, here's another one. So I read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy, so obviously you get into a lot of other worlds. And one thing that really drives me nuts is when you have aliens talking about things that only Earthlings would know. So, I mean, whether it's just like a common phrases that we would use that make complete sense, but they're based on stuff that we don't even remember. It's just a phrase that we use so often. But then, like, if aliens are just using that in conversation amongst themselves without there being any reason why they would know that, that bugs me a lot. That's kind of an issue I have with Battlestar Galactica, is how that all cultural evolution, like, anyway. Anyway, and I think along with that, like, language. I have no problem with swears. Justin, if you're watching this. I have no problem with swearing, but when aliens are dropping F-bombs and you're like, why would they say that word? But then there's some really fun and creative ways that you can make aliens have their own swear words based on their own culture and their own phrases based on their own culture, and I think that that's really interesting when you see that. But it just doesn't make sense if there's not a reason why they would know these things, and you're just like, here, they're saying this because... My number one thing that bugs me is both novels and movies. And I guess this would be a cliche, but it's not one that I hear talked about a lot. There was a recent movie that came out that did this, that just, I hate this. So that is when the love interest of the main character has to die in order to teach the main character a lesson, or their death is like the driving force behind them doing whatever they go on to do. It sucks for the love interest, and it just, like, you just see it all the time, and movies are especially bad because you usually get the love interest dies and then there's a moment of like, no, and then they like lift up and charge and win. And it bugs me every time. I got in kind of an argument in the theater parking lot with my husband about this, but he's like, but think of a story where there's not that love interest aspect like driving the main character. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you can have that, I get that, but it's them having to die. And it just seems like a very lazy and slightly over dramatic to me whenever I'm reading that. It's just like, why does that always have to happen? Like, you can't continue having that person be alive and still be motivated to like fight for them, or you have learned something that they've taught you. Like, why do they have to die?